passed my drone test today. Part 107. I will say it was not an easy test. I did study a lot. I used an app to study, and I paid for an online video course to study. And I'm going to say it was very close in my score, but I did pass. I was not 100% prepared in any way for the questions that were asked. They were very tricky questions, let's put it that way. The FAA has switched up the answers that I was told would be there. Some of the things that threw me off were the maps, the airspace, the radio call sign, which radio frequency would you use for this or that on different airports. In the test on the computer, you had no ability to zoom in and look at any images. You needed to go to the book and look at all the maps. So, where's a map? I'm gonna have to cut that. How come I'm not seeing any maps?
I did the same thing.
Yeah. So a map, this was all you had to look at. Don't do what I did and buy a cheap magnifying glass, because it didn't work that great. It could have been a lot better, and it would have gave me a little more confidence in my answers. But you're going to need to have a magnifying glass. I don't care how good your vision is. It's the only way you're going to get to enlarge this. The other thing is a calculator. They do allow a calculator. A basic calculator. I think I paid $4 for this at Walmart. I used it probably 3 times. I could have did the math on paper, but it was good to just be able to knock it out on the calculator and not worry about making a quick mistake. How to use that for elevation of a tower and airspace above that tower, and whether or not you needed to have a waiver to operate in that airspace, which I believe I got that one correct, and I believe you did need to have a waiver for that because you were all the way up into Class E airspace. These on the maps here, these magenta lines outline here. One of the questions was very difficult because they put you right on the line itself and asked you what airspace you were in. I'm not sure if I got that one correct or not, because I didn't know if I was inside or outside the circle. I was right on the line, so that might be something to look up. Again, with the radio call signs, where's that at? They referred me to figures like this. I had never looked at a figure like this related to airport information. So become familiar with this and the call signs that are used, or I'm sorry, I keep saying call signs, radio frequencies that are being used in here. I was always looking at the map for that type of stuff, and I had a good understanding of it here, but when I came to this, I kind of got a little confused, but I think I did all right. Questions. There were questions on stable air, dew point. I wish I wrote some of them down. But it was just, I found the questions were similar to what I studied, but the answers to the questions were not. And that kind of threw me for a loop. For instance, stable air, they asked, what was the best characteristic of stable air? And all 3 answers were conditions of stable air, and trying to understand which one was the best, I had no idea, so I basically had to eeny, meeny, miny, moe it. And when you finish the test, they actually push you right into the survey. And all I wanted to know at that point was my grades and whether I passed or not. So I went through the survey real quick. I didn't put any comments on whatsoever, and I just submitted it, and then my grades popped up. And I was like, great, I passed, I'm good to go. And then it gave me the option to look at the questions I got wrong. They don't give you the answers to the questions you got wrong, they just give you the question. So now I'm going through these questions. I actually found a question on there that I don't recall having on the test, and personally I think it was a mistake. Somehow that a question was listed on there that I didn't have, but the examiner said, well, you should have put that on the survey. But the thing was, I had to do survey first, so I didn't know how, that was going to be an issue. And most of the questions that I got wrong, I had marked as question marks next to them as I went through the test. And I knew you could get 18 questions wrong and still get a 70. So I had 20 questions marked questionable. I went back through those. I changed 4 or 5 of them, and I left the rest with my first instinct. And I came very close to the number you needed to pass or fail. I will say that. In 2 years, I'm going to be studying this stuff real hard again, and obviously trying to learn over the next 2 years a little bit better, looking at things, asking questions of pilots that I know, and trying to understand the airspace. Oh, there was questions on the elevations related to airspace too, which kind of threw me because they don't always have those numbers with the hash marks on them, 100 over 40, or that's not always there. And they're asking you things about that particular airspace. I found that to be a little confusing. But overall, I'm just glad it's over with. I'm glad it's finished for 2 years. And before I left the airport, I was shown this study guide, which I had never seen. Might be something that you guys want to get before you actually take the test. I would study from more than one type of material or one test. For instance, if I had just studied with the app that I had, I probably wouldn't have passed. If I had just studied with the video stuff that I had from another course, I don't think I would have passed. I think it was a combination of the two things that I had that made me pass, that helped me get enough questions correct so I can get through it. So, the other thing that they showed me they had available, I think this was like $13. It's a flight log book. I picked one up. I have no idea how to fill it out at this point. I got to ask a pilot friend of mine what's supposed to be in here and what isn't. And I've grabbed one. Also, while I was at the airport, I grabbed the last sectional chart that they had for my area. So these don't last very long. There is an expiration date, so you got to update these often if you want to be up to date. And that was my day, and I'm very happy.
Now say something like, now take a look at this footage of me in a simulator.
Oh yeah, you got to check out another couple videos I'll put up of me doing a flight simulator that was at the airport, and the guy was nice enough to take me over for 15 minutes and let me fly a couple missions, and it was quite interesting. Something funny that happened when I left the airport. I actually got in my car and I started to drive, and I found myself pushing and pulling on my steering wheel for some reason, because it has to do with your spatial situation. It was just the weirdest thing driving for like the first 10 minutes after I got out of this flight simulator. So be careful of that if you ever do one. But all right, catch you guys. Comment, like, subscribe. Have a great one.